So it seems like it's one thing after another for the Cleveland Browns almost year after year. And while the most recent incident to happen is still under investigation and it's always innocent until proven guilty, things are not looking good on the surface for their only draft pick that's also yet to sign his rookie deal. So I've got to dive into that situation and what could come from it, but then a ton of wide receiver news also happened today, from holdouts to a potential trade demand and even a massive contract extension. So I've got to talk about all that and more right after. Alright, first up, we've got to talk about Browns rookie running back Quinshon Judkins, who just got arrested Saturday on a misdemeanor domestic violence and battery charge. This kind of stuff is literally never fun to talk about, but unfortunately it is rather big news, as Judkins was just drafted early in the second round by the Browns back in April. But here's what allegedly occurred, at least per the police report featuring the probable cause affidavit. Police responded to a residence on Saturday morning on a delayed battery complaint. The actual incident is alleged to have occurred on the Monday prior, so 5 days before. Well, the police determined there to be probable cause for battery to have occurred, so from there, they contacted Judkins and took him into custody. I'm not going to go through the entire arrest report, but the victim is alleging that Judkins, who she was reportedly in a relationship with, punched her with a closed fist in the chin/lip area and again in the left arm and thigh while they were inside of a rental car leaving the airport. She then stated the reason she didn't call 911 earlier was because she felt bad due to Quinshon's recent success in getting drafted into the NFL and all that. But after talking with family and friends throughout the week, that's when she decided to report it, and there is allegedly photographic evidence to go along with this. Judkins had his initial court appearance on Sunday morning and was released that afternoon on a $2,500 bond. The charge he's facing is described as touch or strike / battery / domestic violence, which is a misdemeanor. During his court appearance, Judkins' attorney, though, did what I thought he might, questioning the legitimacy of the accusations because of how long she waited to report it. I'm not saying Judkins did or did not do this, but given the 5-day delay, Quinshon's lawyer is definitely going to try to leverage that one and potentially use it to question whether or not this actually happened. As far as how this could impact Judkins and his football career, the Browns did say they're aware of the arrest and are gathering more information, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because Judkins is one of 30 second-round picks that is yet to sign his rookie contract. With him still being unsigned, if the Browns wanted to part ways with him, technically they wouldn't even need to cut him, because again, he is unsigned and currently not technically a player on their roster, although I think we are a ways away from seeing that kind of decision being made. The NFL will most likely conduct an investigation of their own, and they can dish out a suspension for however long they see fit. It's certainly not a great first impression for Judkins, though, and it's yet another headache for the Browns to have to deal with, a team that is no stranger to drama both on and off the field. The Deshaun Watson is obviously the big one, but then they dealt with a similar situation just last year with their second-round pick in Mike Hall Jr., who ended up being suspended for 5 games during the 2024 NFL season. So yeah, this is back-to-back not great situations for a player the Browns have drafted. Of course, the legal process still needs to finish playing out with Quinshon, and it's always innocent until proven guilty. I will say he could be eligible to be placed on the commissioner's exempt list as the investigation continues on, which acts as a suspension during investigations like this. So we'll see what ends up happening here, but I do want to move on from the Judkins situation, yet stay on second-round draft picks from this year's draft class because the majority of these guys, as I mentioned earlier, are still not signed. Chargers rookie receiver Tre Harris, for example, taken in the second round, did not report to training camp yesterday and is officially in a holdout. The reason he and 29 other second-rounders remain unsigned is because they're after more guarantees in their rookie contracts. Their salaries cannot be negotiated because it's predetermined based on their draft position, but the amount of guarantees can be. All first-round picks get fully guaranteed deals, but this year we saw a new precedent as the 33rd and 34th pick, Carson Schlesinger and Jaden Higgins, both received fully guaranteed rookie contracts, the first time that's happened for a second-round pick in NFL history. So these other guys and their agents are looking at that and saying, well, shoot, we want that too, or at least more guarantees than they'd previously expected prior to this happening. And Tre Harris is just the tip of the iceberg. The only reason we're talking about him holding out is because the Chargers were the first team across the NFL to report to training camp. Once these other teams start showing up to camp, we're going to be seeing a lot more reports of guys potentially engaging in holdouts like this. It's far from ideal to not have your second-round pick present for training camp, as these guys need all the reps they can get to acclimate to the NFL. Who knows, some of them might hold out while others might hold in, which means attend and be around but not participate in the actual practices. Something's got to give though, and I'll be very curious to see how long this drags on until we start to see some of these contracts get signed. I would think it's sooner rather than later, but who really knows right now? And then Tre Harris is not the only receiver after a bigger bag. Adam Schefter reported today that 49ers wideout Jajuan Jennings is seeking either a new contract or a trade as he's entering the final year of his deal. The Niners actually gave him a 2-year, $15.4 million deal last offseason, but Schefter said that does not change how Jennings feels about this year. He's set to make $7.5 million for 2025, but if a new deal isn't reached by the start of training camp next week, he plans on formally requesting a trade to a team willing to pay him. He is coming off a career season with 77 catches, almost 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns, his best year by a landslide, so he's looking to cash in on that while he can. Brandon Ayuk, for what it's worth, did something similar last offseason as well, holding in during training camp until a massive 4-year, $120 million extension was reached at the end of August. So yeah, I have to imagine the Niners don't love hearing this from Jauan, but they also really don't want to move on from this guy either. They're already going to be without Brandon Ayuk for the start of the year as he's working back from that torn ACL and MCL from the 2024 season. Then they traded Deebo Samuel away to the Commanders on top of that. So Jajuan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall are their number 1 and number 2 receivers at least to start the season. Jennings may be using that as leverage like, hey, you guys clearly need me. I just proved what I could do last year, so either pay me or trade me. Schefter did say, though, that Jennings is not expected to be a training camp holdout if no deal gets done, but he's not expected to be happy. The 49ers also hold the leverage here because, yeah, you can hold out if you want, but if you hold out, you're not going to get paid. So yeah, they could choose to call his bluff and then obviously make him play out the last year of his deal, and he probably will. They just run the risk of losing him for nothing next offseason. He is a bit up there in age, getting closer to 30. He's 28 and then technically has just 1 year of massive production, but hey, I don't blame the guy for at least trying to get as much money as humanly possible. Speaking of money, Jets wideout Garrett Wilson just got paid a boatload of it today and became a top 5 highest paid wide receiver in the league. They agreed on a 4-year, $130 million deal that includes $90 million guaranteed. That $90 million is the 4th largest guarantee for a wide receiver, and that also means he'll earn $32.5 million per year on average, and that makes him the 5th highest paid receiver in the league behind Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and DK Metcalf. It's pretty well deserved, honestly. Last season, he became one of just 5 players in NFL history to record over 80 catches and 1,000 yards in each of his first 3 seasons, and he did that with very erratic, subpar up and down QB play. Now, since he still had 2 years left on his rookie deal, this 4-year extension has him under contract for the next 6 seasons. But again, it is well deserved. He was one of the lone bright spots on that Jets team since being drafted in 2022. He's also not the only member of that draft class. The 2022 draft class of the Jets hope to extend soon. New York did have 3 first-round picks that year: Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and edge rusher Jermaine Johnson. So while Wilson is the first of the 3 to get a long-term extension done, don't be surprised to see another one of these guys get one done as well very soon, with the next in line most likely being Sauce Gardner. He could potentially surpass Derek Stingley Jr.'s $30 million APY before all is said and done, which is pretty impressive. Next up, somebody else recently extended was actually the GM for the Chicago Bears, Ryan Poles. It's a 5-year extension that'll keep him around through the 2029 season, and that actually puts him on the same timeline as first-year head coach Ben Johnson, who's also under contract through 2029. Poles was hired by the team back in 2022, and while they haven't had a lot of on-field success since then, he was also tasked with completely rebuilding a roster that hadn't had a winning season in the 3 years prior to him getting the job. His tenure hasn't been perfect. He's had some misses here and there, just like any other GM, with the biggest probably being when he traded a second-round pick for Chase Claypool back in 2022. Claypool caught just 18 passes in 10 games across 2022 and 2023 before they traded him and a 7th-round pick to the Dolphins for a 5th-round pick. Then the Matt Eberflus hiring didn't exactly go to plan either, and you could make the argument they waited a bit too long to fire him. After they went 10-24 in Eberflus's first 2 seasons, some thought he would be fired and they would bring in an offensive-minded coach to pair up with Caleb Williams, but Wrong. They brought him back, the team struggled, and they wound up firing him in the middle of the season, well, a little bit after the middle of the season, after starting 4-8. Since then, though, to Ryan Poles' credit, I would say he laid out a pretty clear vision for this team moving forward. If you take it back to 2023, perhaps his biggest win as a GM was trading the first overall pick that year to the Panthers in exchange for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and DJ Moore, which was pretty freaking crazy. One of those firsts ended up being the first overall pick in the 2024 draft, which of course turned into Caleb Williams. His rookie season was full of struggles. He led the league in sacks, and the Bears only managed to win 5 games. But this offseason was massive. They brought in Ben Johnson as the new head coach, formerly the OC of the Lions, then completely revamped the interior of the offensive line. They traded for guards Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, as well as signing center Drew Dalman in free agency. Then the draft came along, and they took 2 new weapons for Caleb and tight end Colston Loveland and wide receiver Luther Burden III. Clearly, ownership is on board with the moves that Poles has made. Otherwise, why would they have extended him for so long? And then defensive tackle and longtime quarterback antagonist Ndamukong Suh officially announced his retirement on July 12th. That day is significant because it's the 1-year anniversary of his father passing away. In his heartfelt announcement on social media, Suh credited his dad with shaping him into the football player he was, calling him his idol, his coach, and his anchor. Before his dad passed, he told Ndamukong that, quote, "It's time to let football go. You've done everything you set out to do. Now it's time for the next chapter," so that's why he chose that date in particular to honor his dad's final wish. Suh hasn't played on a team since 2022, but he was never technically retired despite being 38 years old. He was drafted 2nd overall by the Lions and went on to have a 13-year career playing for 5 different teams, including the Bucs, who he won a Super Bowl with back in 2020. He earned a reputation for being a bit of a dirty player over his career, but there's no denying that he was a great lineman as he made 5 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pro teams. Anyway, that's going to do it for me today. Let me know your thoughts on a bunch of these second-round picks not getting deals yet, the Garrett Wilson extension, as well as the drama that Quinshon Judkins is currently going through, and what you think could end up happening in the comments down below. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.